Nice guy's way.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. If you want to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, even though it's kind of a nasty night. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to Rex, and he's going to introduce the Trefz family, and then they'll have the stage. Rex?
It's good to see so many people here tonight on a, and we have 2 good weeks of good weather, and this happens on the night of meeting. Well, the majority of what I'm going to make the introduction is from the Eudora Community Heritage of our USA Bicentennial. And this is a publication that's sold by the Eudora Area Historical Society. It's a $20 book, and it's a thorough and complete history of Eudora. And they're for sale here tonight. William Trefz Sr. erected a building at 722 Main in 1915 and started a variety store after being the miller at the Eudora Mills. Soon after the opening of the variety store, his son, Carl Trefz, returned from Kansas City and became a partner in the store. Carl continued the business alone following his father's death. Trefz Variety Store sold clothing, household items, and gift items until 1976. In 1888, W.A. Fuller opened a hardware store where Trefz Plumbing was located at 720 Main Street. Jesse and William Sandy Warsop operated the delivery barn before 1912, and the office was the north part of the Trefz Plumbing shop. The Trefz Variety Store, in my time, I was a youngster growing up here in Eudora, and I remember going there all the time until my grade school, junior high days. And in the summertime, me and my friends, we would go in there every day in the summertime, and we'd purchase baseball trading cards. And for a nickel, you would get a pack of trading cards, be 4 cards, and a big wad of gum in there. And the gum would lose its flavor in about 30 seconds, but I still wished I had those cards, but I know that most of them got bent up in the spokes of my bicycle because they made a really neat sound when you used a clothespin to tie them to the back wheel of your bicycle. The thing that I remember most about the Trefz Variety Store is walking in and seeing the oak display cases and seeing all that candy in those jars, the different kinds of gum and licorice and all types of candy, and usually it's sold for a penny or 2 cents. And Carl, he was always good to me because I was a regular customer, and he'd say, I know, you just got a nickel on you. He said, you better take a couple extra pieces. And he did that. He did that every time I came in that store. Also, me and my friends, we used to buy the balsa wood planes, and we'd put them together, and they were only 3 or 4 pieces, and we'd throw them, and in the summertime, a hot summer breeze would catch them, and they'd make lazy circles, and we'd time them, see how long we could keep them in the air. And if you could keep them in the air for 3 minutes, that was an A1 flight. We also used to buy the yo-yos and try all the yo-yo tricks, but more often than not, we used to break windows and stuff like that with them. I got a couple items here that I'd like to share. I found these in my yard while I was digging around my yard. And I know that these came from the Trefz Variety Store. These are the little green plastic army soldiers. You used to buy them like 20 in a package for probably $1 or something like that. I used to buy packages and packages of those, but I found these out in my yard, probably 5 or 6 years ago. These are items that I played with when I was about 6, 7, or 8 years old. Now the other items, this was big time, are the cat's eye marbles. Used to buy them by the bag, and you could buy 50 in a bag or 100 in a bag, and you can tell that we used to play poison a lot, and that was my favorite game of marbles, because this marble here has got a big chip out of it, and that's probably where somebody used a steeler and chipped my marble. But you know, these are some of my. These may seem trivial items, you know, to all of you, but these are a part of my childhood, and the memories I get from the Trefz Variety Store, I'll never forget them. And Trefz Variety Store means it's part of my childhood, it's part of my growing up, and I know that a lot of our members have brought items here, and members of the Trefz family have brought items from the Trefz Variety Store. But at this time, I'd like to have Pam or Patty introduce themselves, and maybe each member of the Trefz family just stand up and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Pam Trefz. This is my sister Patty. I'm Patty Trefz, and we have William Trefz.
And you're married now, and your last names are?
Last name is Dodd, and my last name is Diego.
That's good. I'm glad your husband's yet let you use their name.
Well, we figured if we say their names, maybe they'll know who we are here. So, and this is our Aunt Nell.
Yeah, my name's Trefz. This is Darla. She's my oldest girl, and Tracy is the youngest. And I got a couple more, one in Oklahoma. Well, she's in Colorado right now. And Nancy lives down the street, but she had to go to play tonight. But she's got a couple of kids in her.
And of course, gave Doobie a call on it. He didn't want to get on it. Doobie's Doobie.
Everybody gave Doobie a call.
Yeah.
Doobie asked me, you know, I used to work with Doobie out at the plant for 15 years. And I used to work with Doobie in the roads and ground shop out there. And when I talked to him a couple nights ago, he said, by the way, Rex, he says, have you ever got married yet? And I said, no, but I've got a nice little female rat terrier, and she's about all I can handle. And I said, what about you? He thought that was funny, too. I'll tell you a little story about Doobie out there at Sunflower. Whenever they poured concrete, and he worked out there for how many years now?
I don't know if it was about 30, 35.
Yeah. Every time they poured concrete out there, he'd take a nail and he'd scratch his name in there, D-U-B-I. And nobody knew who Doobie was, you know, because, but if you worked out there, you knew who it was. So that's about all I've got to open this program. And at this time, you know, I'm going to open this podium up to anybody who would like to come up and share an item. Or any of the Trefz family to share their items, and just come up here and speak in the mic, or you can just stand up here in the front, or grab an item off the back table and bring it up here, or so.
I don't know if somebody has a pair of key overalls or not. Did you bring any? No? Okay, never mind.
There's a pair
Is
back there.
Okay. I guess that's, my memory was always he had the key overalls hanging in the window. They had the little ones for kids all the way up to the adults. And then probably my favorite thing is the little dog that's at the corner of the table. And we really didn't know what that was for the longest time, I just liked the face of the dog. And we went to, we took some items to the Historical Museum in Kansas, Topeka. And they said that it's probably an advertisement for something. So we looked it up on the internet. My sister looked it up on the internet and found out its name is Bonzo, and it was a advertisement for Crosley radio tubes. So sometime, I guess he sold Crosley radio tubes. And it was interesting. There's several pages about Bonzo and what the whole point of the dog was. So I just thought that was interesting, and I'll leave it up here if people want to read. The other thing is my brother had gotten the optometrist, or the prescription eyeglass, and you might want to take a look at the book because there are a lot of people who were locals in town who had their prescriptions that are written in the ledger. So there are names that you might recognize, Zismus and a lot of the Nices, and it might be interesting for you to go through that. So I'll put this over there. That was my favorite thing. And that's all I have, really. Anybody else?
Well, what do you remember? What about it?
We used to get jacks, the rubber ball and the jacks. And he also, I don't know if you guys remember, he had this Chinese jump ropes, which was just one piece of elastic.
Around your ankles.
Yeah, and it went around your ankles, and two people would each have them around their ankle, and the middle person would try to do stuff. And I don't know if you can follow them. Yeah, I remember that. Those were fun. And we always had to go get our photographs taken once a year. Remember that? He had a photographer come.
Yep, I remember.
They always had it. I remember we always were sent down to get our pictures taken.
My sisters used to get mad at me because I could beat them at jacks.
Oh, really? I was never good at it.
And the kite reminds me of something too.
Yeah.
Every Easter, my parents would buy me they were only like a dime or a quarter. Every Easter, my parents would buy me a kite, and I'd go to the west side where Pinecrest Apartments are now, and that was an open pasture, and all I had in there was a horse and a cow maybe, and I'd go up there in that big open pasture, and I'd tie together 3 or 4 strings of nylon string and fly that kite. It looked like it was clear over here by Fern Long's house. Who's next?
Well, I'll add a couple things. The things I remember the most are food related. I don't know what that says about me, but like Cracker Jacks and these little ice cubes, chocolate things. And I remember taking my brother in there and having to really literally pull him out of there because he liked to stay in there so much. And the other thing I remember is going in, and it was kind of dark, and then I don't know how Uncle Carl flipped on the lights, whether he pulled a string or something, but then the lights would come on, and generally he would be sitting back in the back with a couple of guys, and they would be talking back there. So when you walked in, you would hear this. I think he had a rocking chair back there, because you'd hear that, and then he'd get up and come and see who it was. So those are the things I remember the most.
Store had a distinct smell.
I remember when I was there. We really want to hear what you guys remember too.
His lunch hour was when some show was on.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I went in there one day, and he was telling me about so-and-so happening, and I said, "Who's that, Carl?" Well, that was on his show as the world turns black. I said, "Carl, you can wait a year and it'd still be the same thing."
But he had to see it.
Yeah.
So it's up in time, so he
Well,
He took care of people so much better than they do today. In the shoe store today, that thing sitting there, you go in there and sit on a chair, and he made sure the shoes fit you when you bought them. You didn't go in and fit your own, He'd bring the shoes down and you put them on and make sure that they was fitting you. And he done everything that way.
Well, I can remember when Nora Trefz lived about those buildings that had an apartment, and then she had those 3 boys, and my mother and Nora were the best of friends. And I always thought that was more fun to go up those steps between that store and go up the doors. And some of the things I bought, years ago we had this pinochle club, and our gift was $1. And some of the things that Arlita Howard gave me are over there, and she gave $1 for it. And then another thing, the one with this old school up here, you can see them over there. My mother had those, because that's where she graduated from high school there in that building. And so that's that one. And then little, these are really, really old. These little things, these are really old. That's where the school up there, and that's where mother graduated. And these came from.
Oh, so it's actually the one.
No, oh, it's up there. She got them down in Hart. She got them from Eudora, Kansas at Trefz Variety Store. So one day we was down there for dinner, and I said, we were all talking about little things in one, and I said, I'd love to have this, because Carol went to grade school there. So mother gave it, and I was real happy to get them. Then they come from Trefz Variety Store. Then I'll tell you about these two little plates. When I cooked at Call Valley, the music kids, they'd always go down to Carl Trefz and bring little gifts for the cooks. And that's how I got these. And I don't want to take up all this time, but our son-in-law, his daughter married a fellow that worked for Southwestern Bell, and they've been married 32 years in July, and I got that for him, but I decided to make a good bank, so I give it. And I got the pennies out of it, and I had $96 worth of pennies not too long ago. So that's quite a story about that.
When did you buy that, Annabelle?
It's been about 31 years ago or so.
So it's not old.
It's old. And this box, I had two boxes, one for each one of my daughters, and I think one took one, and the other one had Eudora, Kansas. They come, I was a good customer, Carl. I loved one. Being an old timer around here, I guess, but I enjoyed it. That's all I got to say.
Vern, do you want to say something about your birds back here?
Well, I have about 12 altogether that my husband gave me many moons ago for our anniversary. And then I have a whole row of plates above my sink that came from there, but I didn't want to climb up and get them. And also, I remember he used to have photographers come and take pictures, and most of my grandchildren had their pictures taken down there.
Well, I expect I could remember a lot about Uncle Carl. I really sat and thought about it a long time. But I know you've all been in there probably. And he had, Rex was talking about the display cases and so on. Well, I have one of those, and it was a cigar, actually it was a cigar case. And it has, for the shelf, it has slats about so wide, clear across it. And then there was a little drawer, there's a little drawer that pulls out in the back, and it's lined with tin that you put water in to keep the cigars moist. And he had that cigar, as you walked in the front door and turned to your right, if you looked in there, if you went there very often, Uncle Carl was like this on the corner of the cigar thing, leaning on that. He's talked to lots and lots and lots of people, just leaning on that cigar holder. One time, Willie and I, Willie took him to Kansas City. He used to go to the wholesale places down there. And I had never been, and I don't know if Willie had or not, but anyway, I went with him, and he went to, it was called T.M. James, and it was the top line of inexpensive things, I guess, back then. That would be where those birds came from, and where the plates, those plates are hand painted, and I have some of them, but I think I gave them to Nancy or one of the kids or something, anyway, or they're packed. I don't know just where. Anyway, those. And that was an experience, let me tell you. There were 7 floors of that wholesale place. And he knew exactly where he wanted to go, and he'd get what he wanted on one floor, and then he'd get what he wanted on the next floor, and he went through all the floors till he got what he wanted, and then it would be delivered to him. And I brought a couple of pictures. I don't know how long I've had them, a long, long time. A pink one and a blue one. And then I see someone else brought one too of the egg plates. But that, that particular plate was given to us for a wedding gift by Mrs. Lutz. I remember, some of you will remember Mrs. Lutz. And so she gave that to us for a wedding present. And I don't know, like I say, there's probably, you talk about his soap operas. One day he come up to my house and he said, "What do you think that Nancy's going to do?" And, well, I have a kid named Nancy. So I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, what do you think's going to happen here?" Well, pretty soon it dawned on me. It was from the soap opera, As the World Turns. That he was talking about that. And he closed the store. He closed the store from, I think it came on at 12 o'clock. 12 to 1. And so he would go home and eat his lunch. And while he was eating and fixing his lunch, why, he watched As the World Turns, and you didn't need to look for him till it was over either, because he watched that. And oh golly, I don't know. There's lots of things. He had the floor, you know, is the wide boards. I think you left the wide boards there. He would sweep that with. You went down there in the morning. He would be throwing the sweeping compound on the floor, and he swept that floor every day of the week. It wasn't every other day, it was every day. And the same way with his house. He dusted his house every day before he came over to the store. I guarantee you, if you went to Uncle Carl's house, you did not find any dust. There just wasn't any.
Where do you live now? For people who don't know, where did he live?
Where did he live? Oh, well, he lived, Freddie, young Fred, lives in that house. They redid it, but he lived just across the alley. He just walked out his back door at the store and across the alley, and he was home. And
I know someone said that he was raised above the store, or?
So that's where Nora and.
no, that's where the folks, that's
The
where
folks,
that's
Nora.
where Uncle Carl and my father-in-law George and Nora, they lived above, they lived up above the store for a while, and then they bought where Freddie and Mildred lived up there, and they lived there till 1954, 58 maybe it was. Is that when your mom got? I think it was 58, about 58, when they got married, and the folks built a new house, and Freddie and Mildred moved into that one.
Was he married?
But Uncle Carl was never married. But I want to tell you folks, he was best cook in town. Oh my Lord, that man could make pies that would melt in your mouth. And he could make a meal out of nothing. He never had a refrigerator for years. He kept stuff in his basement. And
He lived alone then?
he lived alone. Well, yes, he did. And Humpty lived with him. He and Humpty lived together. And
Humpty
I,
never married?
excuse me,
Humpty never married?
Humpty never married either. Neither one of them got married. There was Aunt Regina, and Uncle Billy died when he was a younger man. He had tuberculosis. Then there was George, Willie's dad, and Uncle Carl and Humpty. And so it was pretty interesting. But he finally did get a refrigerator, but he didn't keep it in the house. He kept it out on the back porch. Yeah. And then I think your dad lived with him. Freddie lived with Uncle Carl quite a bit of the time. I think that he went to like high school. He was down there all the time, so I guess he decided he might as well live there. And I don't know what else about him.
You talked about him closing over for the soap opera. What time did he open, and what time in the morning did he open, and what time did he close?
I'm not sure. He was open early.
Yeah.
I mean, he was open early. You probably go down there at 7 o'clock and he'd be open. But I think he didn't close till 6. He would stay open till 6 o'clock in the evening. But,
Well, he was always open on Saturday nights too.
Yeah, what days of the week was it on?
Monday through,
Sunday, I know
no, I was just gonna say, he did not open on Sunday. No, he did not open Sunday.
But the reason I know, there was Convesses down there on the corner, and his store was open there on Saturday night, because that's the only place we got to go on Saturday night. We took our baths and went to Eudora every Saturday night, and Smike's was there, we could get an ice cream. We had a nickel. Either go to Carl Trefz, or down at Convess or Smike's for the drugstore.
Well, if it was made, Uncle Carl had it. There was a million things in there. You couldn't, I just couldn't believe all the stuff that was in that store.
Well, that's the only place you get little boys' bib overalls with the stripes.
Right, right.
Yeah, but you-
Like,
They never brought these.
right.
She bought
Isn't
them
that-
for Carrie. What year? Marlene, any idea?
Probably 71, 71 or 72.
And then Billy and I brought these adult ones. You were a little skinnier then, I think, Billy.
Yeah.
You know what year you bought them?
I think about a year before he finally closed up, I bought 2 pairs and wore one out, and that's what I had left for them.
About 75 then. What other clothing did he have besides this, do you remember?
He had the work shirts, the chambray work
Yeah.
shirts.
Yeah.
Didn't he have material too?
At one time he did.
And you said shoes?
Yes, he had shoes.
Did he have a big variety? I mean, you know, or
In the
he-
back, pretty good sized store back then.
Didn't see that, it's been in the-
Because we didn't have that big stores.
It was in the back.
Pretty good sized store.
And I remember boxes of handkerchiefs, women's handkerchiefs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had men's handkerchiefs too, the bandana.
Bandanas.
You never went out of that store, he had that great big round roll of paper, he wrapped everything up.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
They never went out like they do nowadays, they always wrap that up in that brown paper again on a roll.
Yeah.
Well, Rex mentioned candy. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
done.
go ahead.
He mentioned candy. What kind of candy did he have? I mean, you know,
I
did
think
he have?
mainly, like Rex said,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
candies.
He had licorice, he had hard candy,
Pixie sticks.
Pixie sticks?
he had.
Yeah.
Cracker Jacks.
Penny candy?
Remember the little wax bottles that came in a 6-pack, and you bit the ends off, and there were like 6 different colors of sugar water. They had no flavor to them.
He had those wax, things, I think, too. The teeth and things.
Oh yeah, the wax teeth, like for Halloween, and the lips, the wax lips.
They all
You
have
don't remember
nowadays, right?
He had candy cigarettes and he did not like,
Oh yeah.
he didn't like you when you got the candy cigarettes.
So you're saying he didn't sell cigarettes?
Not cigarettes.
He
No.
thought he sold
And candy, and he wasn't.
But he sold cigars.
Right.
Yeah. he did.
And he still, I remember now these little statues that you got, this would just fascinate me as a kid, and they had these tiny little cigarettes, and they had a hole right here by the mouth. And you'd stick the little cigarette in and light it, and it would look like someone smoking for a while. And his mom still has one.
I'm just gonna say, I have one of those.
I have that.
No, well, the one that she has, okay, one of the kids has that. But at any rate, mine came from Germany. But that's probably where his came from too.
Yeah, that's right, he did.
Yeah.
But I just remember he would sell the little candy cigarettes, but he didn't really like you to, don't put it in your mouth.
Not while you were in the store anyway.
But we thought they were really cool because they had powdered sugar, and when you kind of blew on them, the powdered sugar would come out, and it looked like you were really smoking.
We know he sold the overalls and everything. What did he wear himself? What kind of clothing?
I remember brown pants.
I just gonna say
Khakis.
he wore
And
it.
a tan color shirt, short sleeves.
Right.
In the winter, of course.
Brown.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Always wore a sweater in the wintertime, always.
And a hat if he went out.
Oh, yeah.
He would walk up to Grandma and Grandpa's every, was it Saturday? It was whatever Lawrence Welk was on. I remember he would always walk up and be at our house by the time Lawrence Welk was on, and he always looked very, dressed up to me. He had a hat on and, a nice shirt and pants and nice shoes.
Uncle Carl was a handsome young fella as a young man, and he used to dance, if you would believe it or not. He went to the CPA picnic. I don't think he missed but about the last 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Love that.
Yeah, he was at every CPA picnic. You could count on it.
But those who don't remember, he died in 77.
Yeah.
And he closed the store in 76. Now, I do know there's one person here who never went to the store because he's too young. But here's pictures of the store and Carl Trefz out here inside. So Steve, you can look at these, the rest of the people say they've been in there.
I was wondering if any of you folks here remember when they had those big sheets of Valentine's,
That's what I was
old time Valentine's, penny a piece,
Right.
and he had them years after the other stores quit them.
Some of
And
them were
a lot of
really,
them really
some of them were really insulting.
Yeah, very insulting.
Very insulting.
Yeah, very
I got
insulting.
one of them, I thought, oh, no.
But he had them years after.
I think I
the other
remember
stores
getting
quit 'em.
those.
Now, you told about how he bought his stuff. I wondered if he bought his stuff himself. Do you know if he had a favorite thing he liked to buy? I mean, was he partial to these plates?
Oh, I don't know that there was any one particular thing. He just carried everything. I mean, he would see it, and he had a very good, I mean, he bought things that people liked.
Yes, because
You
it's
know,
what the public wanted.
Yeah, he really had a
He
very
was
good.
the Sam Walton of his day.
Yeah, indeed.
Didn't he have some candy that had a ring in it? Penny candy?
I don't
inside,
recall
just
that.
a little cheapy ring?
Oh, yeah, probably though.
Plastic rings.
Right.
Yeah, he had all kinds of stuff.
Remember all the fire sticks he had, all the different flavors? He had the hot stuff and the apple and the sour apple, and he had about 12, 15 varieties of. You don't even see them
He
anymore.
had all of the posters. Of course, they always advertised the CPA picnic. And he had every poster from year one of, I don't know what happened to them, but he had them all. They were on the shelves underneath those oak things. He had Life magazines. Oh, another thing he did. You'd go in there and he used to write down everything that he sold. He kept
He did his own
a ledger. He had a ledger. He would write down who bought it, how much it cost, and all this stuff. And up at the top, it was a big long ledger book about so big by so big. And if you would open it up, there was a margin at the top of that ledger book. And you would go in there, if you would read that, you could go back for years and see that Nell had a baby on whenever. It was really hot. Excuse me?
It was his diary too? Also?
Well, he just kept stuff in it. What the day was like, if somebody died, if somebody got married, if somebody had a baby, it was all at the top of that ledger book.
Did he have any employees besides himself?
Not that I ever know of. Annette went down there and helped him, the last, I think, couple of years. But as far as I know, he ran the store by himself.
I think Judy had said to me that Howard at one time had opened a clothes cleaning thing in the back.
Oh, really?
But I think he said it was before World War II, so it's
Yeah.
probably in the 30s. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I wasn't that aware of it.
No, I don't really know that.
Okay, he opened his store in 1915 and closed it in 1976. And these are pictures of Eudora. One's 1915 and the other one's 1976. Anyone wants to come and make a comparison. In 1915, Eudora had dirt roads, or dirt streets, and brick sidewalks. In the other picture, you can see that more clearly. But I just thought, somebody might want to do a little, that's 60-some years.
I just want to mention too how helpful those pictures are if you want to restore those buildings, because like when we were trying to put that building back to its original form, if we hadn't had that picture, I think Patty brought it, it's up there. It would have been really hard for us to know because it's changed, the building got changed over the years, and so that was really helpful. And then also with Nell had mentioned the floors in there. If you go in there, there is she mentioned where Uncle Carl always stood. Well, then there was a counter there, and he walked back and forth, and there was a distinct little dip in there. And we're not sure how we're gonna deal with that. But
Two, as I recall, he had I hadn't thought about that till right now. There was I want to say a platform type in the front of it. Like you could put stuff in the window.
Yeah.
And he kept somebody, when Willie was sick, that in what, about 45, I think, somebody gave him, I think, what do you call them, calanchins? They look like, kind of like a rubber plant with the little tiny flowers on them. He had that plant from when Willie was, somebody had given that to him, and he had it, kept it all those years. It was the same plant, same plant.
He was a big saver when, I remember after he died, we were kind of cleaning out some of the things that were there. We found tins full of like little pieces of aluminum foil that he saved, and you know, the wire bread wrappers that come on bread, he would save those, and just everything. It was just incredible.
Tell us about your research you're doing on the building.
Oh, Patty's been doing more of that.
Mostly just, I mean, we've had a couple of, well, one of the historical architects from Lawrence had come down and looked at the buildings, and really trying to figure out, well, mostly with the plumbing side, really trying to figure out, because they were kind of built in pieces, you know, the north side and then the south later, probably as they became more prosperous in whatever business they were doing. But the only real research I have is from the deeds, from the grant, you know, that I know great-grandpa William Trefz Sr. was in 1915, and then in 1919 Carl and he went in as partners, and that's really, I mean, all the research I've done.
So do you think when the building was first opened, it was bathroom and running water?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, we don't put that in.
Yeah.
It didn't have a bathroom or running water till
Ever?
just later.
Or till later?
Till just
about
a month ago.
Okay.
We pretty much had to do that because,
Yeah.
of course, you know, to be up with code and all that, but yeah, we were.
Yeah, I mean, there was never air conditioning. He had fans.
He did, he had
Had ceiling
the
fans.
ceiling fans, and then there was gas in it because he did have the great big old, big furnace heater thing.
Did that hang from the ceiling?
Yeah, hung from the ceiling, from the back.
And, yeah, it was, yeah, everything, I mean, you know, he would just go across the alley to his home.
He attended church every Sunday
As far as I know.
He used to go to church. He I don't know, well, I guess I'd be telling tales out of school. He was very upset when his mother passed away. That, I don't know whose decision it was, don't have a clue, that they would not bury her from the church. And that was the last time that Uncle Carl went to church. So he never went any, that I know of. Not that he didn't believe, you know, he was a very religious person, but he would not go to the church because it made him so upset. She had, what she had, typhoid fever, I believe.
And I think it was at that time they thought that.
And so they would not bury her from the church, or let her come into the church, and it didn't go over very well. So that's about all.
Yeah, and I'm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Back to the building, we were by when you guys were, you know, really getting into restructuring it and whatnot. Did the architectural people you talked to had a comment about how sound it still was? Because to me, I mean, it was just phenomenal to look at these pillars that were on these, just rocks. They hadn't moved, they hadn't cracked, they hadn't done nothing. I mean, they were just like the day they put them down.
It was A-Rock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
There was a beam on, I mean, we walked in there.
but wait a minute, we're talking about two different buildings here.
Right, that's
Uncle,
that is
Uncle Carl's building, and then the one north of it where the steps go up between, where the plumbing shop was, that's what they're talking about.
Right next.
And you're redoing that?
Oh, yeah, slowly.
Well, we went in there, Ray was down there one day, and we went in there, and we hadn't been in, they were redoing it, and they hadn't been in a long time. And I remember it as it was still all together. And Scott and I went down, and we walked in the front door, and I kid you not, there was a beam, 4 by 4, no, bigger than that, 6 by 6 or 8 by 8 maybe, beam on the wall, and at ground level, which was dirt, it sat on a rock.
But that's not a beam, Tracy, that's a poster.
Well, what a pillar, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I guess the funniest thing to us was that this had been there for 100 years. And that place was held up by this thing, this rock. It was just amazing. It hadn't moved, it hadn't shifted, it wasn't, it was something.
What I like about the plumbing shop is it's still got the old phone number on the front, KI 22768. That's my phone number now, so that's how I remember what my phone number is.
You said Mr. Trefz had the building built, or he built it?
I don't know that.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I haven't
know,
covered that yet.
It was Masonic Lodge to him. I don't know if he built it on the land. I haven't gotten that far, but that's the 1915.
Didn't even check.
No, that's okay. I'm not positive about that. But I was gonna say, before Carl became a partner in the business, and he went to he studied ministry in Baldwin, Kansas. So he was real involved.
Right.
Yeah.
He was, and then I think their mother died, and I believe that's why he quit. He literally raised the family, the rest of his brothers and sisters. So he quit, and then he went in. He had a sister,
But he didn't raise her, she was gone. She left at 16.
well, you're right about that. She ran off and got
That's why
married.
he had to raise me.
Patty, in our book, it says that William Trefz Sr. erected the building in 1915 at 722 Main Street.
That's right. When I was listening to you to the opening statement, I thought, oh, I need to read what he's reading. Hopefully, I need to get your book. Thanks.
Yeah, because if he didn't build it, I wanted to.
Yeah. So currently, yeah.
Are those books the ones that they did in the Centennial?
Yeah. Mhm.
Centennial?
From Bicentennial.
Yeah.
Bicentennial.
What did they do with the contents of the store after he died? Did you have an auction?
Dad had an auction.
What year was that?
I was in college, I think. It was before that.
People maybe was there for
I think it would have been around 1980 or so.
history of
Or 80. I don't know if anybody's ever.
Was Grandma alive?
I don't think so. I think he did that. That stood there for years after Uncle Carl died. That he just didn't do anything with it. And I can't remember what year it was, because I don't think he had that before I retired, which would be 90.
Oh, really? I think he had it in 90.
So I think it was in the 90s, early 90s, that they had for sale.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I brought some to share.
Great, Valerie.
This goes along with one of the things on the table. This is the base that has the high school on it. It goes with the songs are right there. Mom bought it, and there's another one. There's a white one. My brother got the white one, and I got the blue one.
I shared with the kids, well, I still know where I get what I'm getting. Guess what? I don't have to go there and get at a big sale or something.
And we live by Old Highway 10, and across the street from the high school is the Shears lived, and they had 3 daughters, youngest one's my age. Of course, we lived across the street from the Shears, and that was before garage sales. And if we needed some money, like the CPA picnic, or we just wanted some money for the shopping one, we would have a toy sale or a lemonade stand and set it up on Old Highway 10, and we never made probably more than $1, but that was a lot of money back then. And we would go down to Trefz and spend our money, or go to the Olson's and get, a nickel Coke or what have you. And so I have a doll that I got at Trefz Variety. That's back in I think it must have been the 50s, when the ponytails were all the thing, all the big rage, and a special doll. And then I have this little tin whistle, because at Trefz Variety have these wire mesh baskets or trays.
Yes, yes.
And there would be a variety of things in the tray, and they would be like a quarter done. It still works. Don't see it very often like this.
I've seen one of those for 30 years.
Or should I take those hands?
Anybody else have anything they want to add? We want to break for about 10 minutes and look at the items and have some refreshments then, and if anybody else has any more questions, we can talk some more about the Kmart of Eudora. Okay. Did everyone sign in? In order to get door prize, you have to sign in.
Yeah.
I need to email him. I'm going to email him. I want to send him an email that I write to him. Yeah. Okay. Vern, I'm going to ask you to draw numbers. Number 20. Number 20 is Darla Trefz. Oh my gosh. Now, Darla, this didn't come from Carl Trefz Store. It came from Joe Johnston's Woodcraft.
Oh.
Here you go.
Oh my goodness.
Draw another one, Vern.
That's cute. It's so cute.
25. Imogene Taylor.
She said I should have had that.
This is spring for birds. Birds for spring. We're hoping that spring will eventually get here. We were hoping it would be here tonight. It's a cardinal for Eudora.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And Joe made it. Okay? One more. Joe. My Joe. 23. Boy, the 20s are into it. Pam Trefz. There you go. Something for you to take home.
That's nice,
Thank you. Thank you all for doing the program. Thank everyone for being here. I also want to thank the calling committee for calling people. We'll have the minutes from the last meeting, Fern.
Minutes of the Eudora Area Historical Society for January 18th, 2001. Rex Burkhardt installed the officers of the Eudora Area Historical Society at the January 18th, 2001 meeting at Eudora City Hall, following a potluck supper attended by 37 people. After the flag salute in unison, the new president, Patty Johnson, presided at the business meeting. The minutes were read and approved after adding Demosic to the name of Marilee Nice as Weaver Director. The treasurer, Marlene Evinger, reported $1,850.69 in the checking account and $4,480.45 in the savings account. The president thanked Rex for his 3 years of service as president and for getting the newsletter out. Marlene and Fern addressed the 140 newsletters. Patty announced the committees for the year as follows. Library and Museum, Rex Burkhardt and Glenn Weininger. Historical Sites, Collections and Storage, Glenn Weininger and Maureen Cox. Publications and Newsletter, Patty Johnston, Peg Buchanan, Kermit Browers, Cindy Higgins, and Marlene Evinger. Programs at Eudora Fest, Glenn Weininger and the Executive Committee. Bud and Hazel James, Rex Burkhardt, Clint and Joy Klaus. Membership and Calling Committee is Fern Long and Marlene Evinger, co-chair. Dora Shearer and Joyce Weininger. Refreshments, Marjorie Grinder and Joyce Weininger. The president announced these programs for the year. Thursday, March 15th, 7:30 p.m. at City Hall. Memories of Trefz Variety Store, led by Glenn Weininger and the Trefz family. Saturday, May the 12th at 10 o'clock to 3 p.m., a garden tour with a sack lunch, led by Maureen Cox. Thursday, July 19th, 7:30 p.m. at City Hall, local JC's history with ice cream social following. Glenn Weininger and Pamela Bass in charge. September the 20th at 7:30 p.m. City Hall, program on Western humor, humanities speaker, Thursday, November 15, 7:30 p.m., City Hall. A program by the History Department of local schools, we hope, with Cindy Higgins in charge. Patty also emphasized this was the 20th anniversary of our society, and Rex presented Furlong with a signed framed document for being the first president and being active in the society. Patty suggested several good ideas for Eudora Fest, to have a tent and a prairie campground with a display of artifacts and museum articles. Glenn Weiniger was to chair the CPA book booth, and fans or some articles would be given away. Ron West said 2 men from the Oregon, Santa Fe, California Trails Association from Missouri were hunting the Oregon Trail near the Sunflower Army plant boundaries, and the 2 guards that had them leave the area. The president emphasized the urgent need for a storage area for the many articles owned by the society. She found no volunteers to chair such a committee. Anyone having articles purchased from the former Trefz Variety Store was asked to bring them for display at the next meeting. Doris Shear brought several pictures for display of her family, ancestors, and old buildings. Furlong displayed one of several books she purchased from the Kansas State Historical Society of old historical journals, now hardbound, with much historical information in them. Books will be placed in the Society Library in memory of Margaret Gabriel and William Nichols, 2 members recently deceased. The Society has received several memorials in memory of Margaret. The door prize was given to Mary E. May. Rex was asked to be master of ceremonies for a game, Who Wants to Be a Eudoran, similar to the TV program Millionaire. Questions were answered about Eudora by Peg Buchanan, Marjorie Gwaniger, Claire and Ron West, Judy Charbonneau, and Stephen Nice. They received calendars and memberships to the society. Everyone seemed to enjoy the game made up by the president. She announced the executive committee to be February the 10th, Saturday at Glenn and Joyce Weiniger's. The meeting adjourned.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? The minutes to be approved as read. Marlene, would you have a treasurer's report?
Our savings, we have $4,730.81, and our checking, we have $2,210.24. And Margaret Gabriel's memorial, we have $195.
Okay, thanks, Marlene. Because of old man or Mother Nature, we didn't have our executive meeting. Tried twice to schedule that, and then got snowed out. So we'll just have some quick business for tonight, and then we'll have an executive meeting and get some other business taken care of. Do I have any committee reports? I think, Rex, you have something for the museum about the post office articles. Did you want to talk about those? Marlene hadn't had a chance to pick those up. I'm going to come down Monday, I think, and try to get those.
Postmaster, the new postmaster here in Eudora called me and said that she had some items which they would like to donate to the Eudora Area Historical Society. I went down and took a look at some of them. I didn't see anything that was, just really stood out in my mind. There were some framed pictures and some everyday business documents back in 60, 61, 62, something like that. And the neatest thing I saw there was the old tin box. There's an old tin box back there, and I don't know what they probably used to keep valuables in it or something.
What they using now? Old tin box down at the post office. They had a tin box down at the post office. What was it used for?
But anyway, I contacted her and told her that somebody from the Historical Society would come down and take a look at it. But we have to sign an agreement with the Postal Service saying that they're donating these on a permanent basis to the Eudora Area Historical Society, and it has to be signed and dated by an officer of the Historical Society. So I left it up to these guys.
Okay. Thanks, Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also under old business, the 20th anniversary of the Historical Society, we're gonna have a display at the library. Marlene, do you want to comment on that?
I haven't done anything yet.
We'll have it done by April.
Yeah.
April 1st.
I had a couple weeks yet.
Okay. And Rex, have you talked to the city about declaring that month Eudora History Month or something?
May?
Yeah, April.
April? No, we could do that, though. Is Fred here?
Oh, yeah, the mayor's here.
Fred can
We have a
proclaim
request.
that.
We have a request. We'd like to have,
Fred can proclaim that at the next meeting.
Next meeting,
yeah, April declared as Eudora History Month.
yeah, and tell Rex to show up more early and not let me forget it.
Okay, Rex, you've got your orders. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Fred. Brenda Clark would like to say a few words.
I'm just gonna set a chair right out here. I've never come to one of these meetings before, and I primarily came here to talk about school board candidacy, but I've been really intrigued tonight because even though I didn't know the Trefz Variety Store when it operated, it brought back a lot of memories of when I went to school, where I went to school in the small town, and the type of stores that we had, and a lot of similar type things. So it's been really interesting, and you have a really neat group of people here. Primarily, I just wanted to get out in front of some groups in town that I normally don't, am not a member of or belong to let people know what the basic issues as I see them, that I'm running for school board. One, the biggest one to me is the best education we can provide for our kids at any level, and to make sure they're prepared when they leave high school to do whatever it is they choose to do, whether it's go on to college, the workforce, technical schools, or training. That's the ultimate and the most important goal. And I think one of the ways to do those is keep the class sizes small, and we have done that. And I think that's really important. All the statistics prove that small class sizes, it's more one-on-one teacher instruction. It's better for the kids, it's better for our teachers. And the other thing is to just be a part of what's going on in our schools and see that we're headed in the right direction for our kids for today and the future. And if anyone at any time has any questions they'd like to ask me, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, and I appreciate you letting me talk to you just briefly. But this is basically why I'm running for the school board. Pat, take me out anytime.
Thanks, Brenda. Sorry,
Thank you.
I can't vote for or against you because I'm not this district.
Aren't you going to ask if there's any other candidates that want to
That's what I was
say
going to say. Is there any other candidates who'd like to put in their 2 cents?
Go ahead.
Rex,
You first, Fred.
well, I'm running for mayor, so if you like what I'm doing, vote for me. Don't vote for my opponent, I mean, I'm trying. That's about all I can do.
Okay, Fred. Rex, your turn. Keep it under 3 minutes, please.
Oh, well.
That's all.
I'm really concerned about the future of Eudora. I think we need to plan. We're growing so fast right now. As you saw the census results that came out yesterday, we're growing. In the last 10 years, we've increased by 43%. And I think we need to plan for that growth, and we need to look and see where we're going. We have to make sure that we know where we'll be 10, 20, 50 years from now. And also, I read something in the Eudora paper today about renovating the downtown by the Chamber of Commerce. They haven't approached the council that I remember. Do you, Fred?
No, they haven't said nothing.
But I would support that 100%. I think we need to build a new Main Street down here. It's falling apart. Can't be repaired anymore. We need to breathe new life into the downtown buildings. We need to keep our downtown alive. And we need to do what we can to keep the history alive in downtown Eudora. And so if you're looking for someone to represent your society, you can count on me to represent the Eudora Area Historical Society and the older residents in Eudora.
Thanks, Rex. We appreciate support from all of you candidates. Anyone else want to make any comment? Under new business, we're working on a design for T-shirts, and we hope to have those out by the CPA time. And our next meeting is Saturday, May 12th, and it's going to be a garden tour. We won't have a business meeting. We'll just meet up here at the City Hall around 10. Watch the Eudora News, because we really don't have this finalized yet, so watch the Eudora News. We'll try to get as much information in there as they'll let us. They're not very good about doing it. But we'll get the calling committee, calling people to them and letting you know. But just call and ask, and just call one of the officers if you get close to the time and you haven't heard anything, and ask what's going on. So I'll count on you being there.
You can always call the library too.
Yeah, you can always call the library.
They may still have snow.
In May, you're right, Fern. Mhm. Fern, did you have any correspondence? Okay, thanks. Executive meeting Saturday, March 31st at Glenn's house. If anyone wants to come, you don't have to be an officer to come. You just want to come and have fun.
March 31st.
Let's try, March 31st, because that's in a couple weeks. Anyone else have any business that they want to bring up, or any comments or anything they want to make? I'm making this quick deal better.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Does the society have an email address to get information back and forth? And two, what's the garden tour? Never.
Okay.
I've not been on one, so.
The email address is me, and you have that. Or the best, because the society as a whole doesn't have one yet. We don't even have a website. I'm working on that in my head. I need to get somebody to actually do it for us. The garden tour, we're hoping to go around, we're hoping the snow will be gone and the flowers will be blooming. And we'll go around town and look at the different gardens, like ferns and places, and talk about the flowers and a little history on the flowers. Actually around the area, because I believe we intend to include fall leaf area and maybe a little bit of Hesper and stuff. We're not sure about our transportation and things like that yet. If we're going to have to drive our individual cars or what, but we'll pull something together.
You may be able to work something out with the Eudora Recreation Commission.
Yeah. But it should be fun, and hopefully we'll have some flowers blooming by then. Crocuses actually are up a little bit.
Mine are
blooming now.
Yeah.
Your crocuses are?
They'll bloom in the snow too.
Okay, any other comments? We'll keep working on Eudora history. You know, Fern wants to tell us about something. She wants to make a little history here.
I told you last year about Mr. Bunshoe that I met with to discuss about a store that was at Blue Jacket Crossing. And so he insists it's up at Mary Gage's, and she insists it was up there. And I insist Blue Jacket Crossing is not up at Mary Gage's. And so this is the book that he's written about his family, and I asked him to, instead of money, I asked people to give us a copy for our historical society. And so he's given me a copy. And there are a few mistakes, like Mary Gage's, but that's the book. And in my historical society book that I bought, that I showed you last time, I found about the real Blue Jacket Crossing. It's just where I said it was, where I always believed it was, where all of you believed it was. And it is.
She found from old sources, and that sometimes your best are your old sources that are written. And for those of you people who are new here, like Brenda, Fern's project is Blue Jacket Crossing. People have various projects, and that's Fern's.
I also might say I have been doing genealogy research on the Edelbrock family. They had a big, they make automotive parts for, mainly now, for racing cars all over the world. They've got a big factory at Sonora, California. And they're writing up a history about it, a man that works there. And he called me because the State Historical Society told him to call me. And so I've been trying to help him out. And I've found quite a bit of material that he wanted, but not all that we'd like to have. And so anybody that knows anything about especially about the older Edelbrocks, we would appreciate it. And I'll try to get it to him. And I asked him, after he got it all written up about this big factory and all the Edelbrocks, to give us a copy of the book, and he said he would.
Great, thanks, Vern. Anybody else have a project they want to talk about? I know Steve was working on Roscoe Stubbs, who was governor. He's going to tell us about him in November, I think. So if anyone's got anything like that that they want to refer to Steve, feel free to. Okay, I want to thank the Trefz family again for an interesting program. Anytime, fun for us too, I hope. And I want to thank Marge for refreshments. And anyone else I'm supposed to thank? Oh, I want to thank Marlene and Fern and Glenn for being here. And my officers, and it always helps to have good officers.
Well, it was close, but I made it.
Okay, I think the meeting's adjourned. We'll see you in May. And Doris?